Hey y'all, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode of the Worlds of Country podcast. I'm your host, Andrew. On today's episode, I'm joined by Vincent Mason to talk all about his musical journey, his brand new single, A Little Too Good, and so much more. Hope you guys enjoy this one. I know I really did. Talk to you guys on the other side. Hey Vincent, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. What have you been up to lately?
Um, Not much. I was in Texas for a week last week, just kind of chilling and yeah, kind of just getting back to writing and stuff this week and shooting some content for the new songs and stuff like that. So it's been good.
So when did you sort of know that music was going to be the thing for you?
Um, I actually hadn't started writing songs until my freshman year at Ole Miss. I went to Ole Miss for like not even a full year out of high school. I graduated and I had a bunch of friends going there, so I went and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then around like Christmas, like January, like around that time, that in between the semesters, I wrote my first like kind of half song, and that's really when I knew I felt like kind of it grabbed me kind of like nothing else ever had. Like I wasn't really excited about anything before that, and yeah, that was kind of the moment. I think like right after I wrote the first kind of half song.
Was there anything that sort of spurred you to start writing songs, or was it something that you always sort of wanted to do?
Yeah, I guess it was in the back of my mind. I got a guitar for I think it was either sophomore or junior year of high school, and I always messed around on it, and like I kind of taught myself on YouTube, and I loved like at that time I loved like country radio, kind of just like hits, like whatever was really catchy, like that was my idea of country music, and then I was also like really into like John Mayer and like other kind of singer songwriter stuff. So um I was learning a bunch of John Mayer stuff and then just like country hits on the guitar. And yeah, I would try to film myself and sing and stuff like around senior year of high school. But I didn't show anyone, and I never thought it'd be something that I did. I was just like wanting to get good at it because I liked it, and it was definitely a secret. So I was always trying to write something, but I never really had anything to say. And then I guess going to college and like being by myself and kind of that was the first time I really had like a relationship that I wanted to work out, like go wrong, and that was like as soon as I had that, like all the country stuff I was listening to and like all the John Mayer stuff I was listening to, I was like, I finally have something I can talk about. Like I know how to write those songs. And so yeah, I heard Parker McCollum on like a dorm speaker during that first semester at Ole Miss, and that was kind of when he was still word of mouth, like from Texas, like hadn't really gone to Nashville and done Pretty Heart yet. So like I was like, what is that? I mean, that was like it made perfect sense to me. Like as soon as I heard Parker McCollum, I was like, I could write songs like that. It makes a ton of sense. So yeah, it was just kind of a mix. It was always in the back of my mind. That was a long answer, but it was always in the back of my mind that I
We
could write
like
songs.
long answers, don't worry.
Oh, perfect, perfect. But it was always in the back of my mind that I could write. I just never had anything to say really, and
To
so I
write
was just
about.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I've never had anything that I thought would be worth writing about, and yeah, I think I was always kind of trying, and like yeah, when it happened naturally the way it did, it made perfect sense.
So after you wrote that first half song, what was the first big step you took towards making it more than just a hobby?
Yeah, so I wrote that half song, and I had like kind of three other ones floating around. And I went back to Ole Miss for like a month, I think, and then right at the beginning of March, we went on spring break, and then COVID happened, and we all got sent home. So I was like, great, I'll have these 2 weeks to keep writing these like little half songs that I have, and I was like, this will be great. And then we just kept doing the semester online, and I kept writing, and then I was either June or July of that year. It was like a week or two. It was like 2 weeks before I was supposed to go back to Ole Miss, and I kind of went downstairs and I told my family, I was like, I think I want to go to Nashville and write songs. Like the only thing I knew about Nashville was that they made country music there. I didn't know anything about it. We didn't know anyone there. I didn't even know how like songs got produced or like what publishing was or anything like that. But I just felt like I should go. And then immediately I started backtracking. I was like, well, I can go after this year. Like I'll go back to Ole Miss for this year and then we can figure it out. And my mom was actually kind of like, I could tell you definitely meant that when you said it. So like we're gonna figure it out right now. So Um, we called Belmont, and they were kind of like, "Who are you?" Like, it's a week before the year. Like, people apply like years in advance or whatever. So we didn't want to apply there, and then like we didn't know if I'd get in at that time, so I didn't want to get stuck there. And then Lipscomb was actually starting like a new music program, and they were like, please send your stuff, like we're looking for kids all the time, like no problem. So they helped me out, and they got me a schedule like I think less than a week before the semester started. And then I started at Lipscomb for a little bit, and then that got me to Nashville. And then from there I just kind of hung out and wrote a bunch of songs, and I was by myself for the first time. So like it was a perfect time for me to just like I would go to class, and then I would come home and just write a bunch of songs. And I didn't know what co-writing was at that time either, so it forced me to write everything I was writing kind of on my own. And yeah, from there it just kind of naturally progressed. I was there for about 2 years or like a year and a half. And this would have been my senior year, but I left at the beginning of last semester. I'm not in school anymore, but yeah, I just kept getting rights and stuff. And like I had a professor at Lipscomb kind of help me out, and she was friends with an old writer named Brian Simpson, and she got me a write like my first time going down to Music Row and writing. And like just kind of stuff like that started happening, and I started writing more and not going to class. And then all of a sudden, after kind of the first or second release, I got a manager, and um, we've been working together since like August. So like we've been doing a lot of publishing meetings and stuff like that, and trying to figure out where we're going to go. But it kind of naturally just progressed into hopefully the career that we want to have. And like the way things are going, I'm really excited. But yeah, it just kind of naturally progressed that way. There was never really like a plan to follow or anything like that. Everything's just kind of fallen into place.
Sometimes it's better not to have that plan because then you tend to stick to that plan too much, even when it's not going the way you thought it would.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no straight line. That was one of the biggest things I learned from the few classes I took at Lipscomb in the music business class. They were just saying there's no straight lines in this industry, like just kind of make it work. And I've always had that in the back of my mind for sure. Just like letting it happen. And sometimes, like making a decision, whether it's like what song to put out or how to produce it or whatever, like sometimes just making a decision is better than sitting there and overthinking it and never doing anything. Like just doing stuff to move the needle a little bit is always better than not doing anything. So I try to keep that in mind and not overthink, too much, and just kind of move where things are going.
I feel like a lot of artists have that perfectionism to them where they until it's perfect they won't move on it and they keep on overthinking until they kill it in a way.
Absolutely. Yeah. The first song I put out, I don't think I slept for the whole like 10 days before it was supposed to come out. I was just up all night, and like, yeah, I struggled with that for a long time, where it was like, and I still want everything to be good, and I want it to be right, and we'll spend a lot of time making it right. But there's definitely a fine line between perfectionism. Like there's something that you'll never get to, if you're not careful. There's a level that it's never ready to release. And like, it's always better to just put the music out, I think.
As long as it feels right and it feels real, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think Zach Bryan is like the best
Yeah.
example of that, where it's just like it feels good, let's do it.
Yeah. And screw what everyone else says, just
Yeah.
go for it. You mentioned that you moved to Nashville not knowing anybody. What was it like navigating both the city and the industry as someone from the outside?
Yeah. That was a really interesting time. Like I was in town, but like I really wasn't even in town until like I would probably say like that whole first year. Like everything was shut down, and I didn't know anyone. And like, it's hard to kind of get onto the scene. It takes a while to get onto the scene, kind of, if you want to call it, in Nashville. So like that was even harder to do at that time. So like I was kind of here, but I could have been doing what I was doing anywhere. But it was really great. I mean, I think it was like the best possible thing that could happen to someone trying to write songs, like just sitting by yourself in a house. And specifically like kind of the sad country songs that I love. Like I just had to sit there and figure out a bunch of stuff about what had happened to me, and then also just kind of figure out stuff about myself. Like I never really kind of looked at myself, like I was very much a kid who was like, how was your day? It was good, and that was it. And like I just was on to the next one, like I didn't really ever think about anything or like how I was feeling about stuff. So um yeah, whenever I started writing songs, like I mean, being by myself was kind of like that was the only thing I had to do. So I do think that a lot of where I'm at is credited to that time in that situation. But at the same time, it was really hard, like not knowing anybody, and it got lonely at times for sure. But I did settle in and found a good group of friends, and then just kind of naturally, um, I actually got like a posting TikToks and stuff. I'm in a distribution deal right now, which I'm doing the first project with them, and they've been great. But yeah, just kind of that led one thing kind of led to another, and then all of a sudden, like we're kind of it's hard to explain, I guess. Like I kind of forget, like it's just so naturally, like you just meet people, and it's like you can't do it any other way other than just being here, and like you never know what might lead to what meeting or what right might get you somewhere else, and it's just kind of hard to trace back now. But I feel like just being here and just writing songs and kind of having the attitude that you want to make it work is kind of how I got in. But yeah, it was a difficult time, and I didn't know anything about the industry. And like really, the way I learned it the most was listening to Just Being Earnest, which is like his podcast. I found out about him right when I got to town, and he had just put out his first project, and I became a massive fan of him. He was the only person that I knew. Him and Hardy were the only two people I knew that were just like songwriters. And then I started looking at all the people who were like songwriters and didn't have like artist stuff out, and like I fell in love with that side of things, and like started studying everyone's like those like written by on Apple Music, like written by Hardy, written by Ernest, written by Luke Laird, written by Ashley Gorley. Like I just started obsessing over that side of things. And yeah, that podcast actually helped me learn a lot about the industry. So it's kind of funny, like meeting some of the people that like are on that podcast or that they talk about on that podcast. It's kind of like I was in town learning about it through that podcast, kind of, and like interviews and podcasts and anything I could listen to. And then now it's kind of funny that I'm meeting some of those people.
Did you ever have thoughts of maybe going the songwriter route, or did you always know you wanted to release your own music as well?
Yeah, that was actually I knew people could do that kind of right before I got here. So for whatever reason, it was just way more. It's so hard to be a songwriter and be a good one, and it takes so much time. And but for whatever reason, not saying it was easier, but it just seemed like it made more sense in my mind. Like it didn't seem as crazy to say I'm going to go be an artist. Um, Going from no music at all, like it seemed a little bit more realistic, I guess, or like tangible that I could go be a writer. So that was actually where my head was at for a long time. Like I didn't tell people I was an artist, and like I had no plans to release music for a long time. I put out my first song like February of last year, but before that, like I was just writing songs, and like I didn't know how to get people to hear them, and I didn't know if anyone would hear them. But I definitely was looking for like a publishing deal was like the gold. That was like the end of the tunnel was definitely like getting a publishing deal. And just being a writer, that was on my mind for a long time. And then I realized that a lot of the songs I was writing really kind of only made sense if I sang them. And then people liked it when I was singing them. When I started posting TikToks, like people really liked it, which surprised me. Like I had no idea if anyone would like it or not. And like I never set out to, I was like, I'm going to be an artist and I'm going to do this and that. But it just seemed to make sense. And it definitely naturally happened. Like there's some songs now that I couldn't imagine giving away. And then there's songs now that like sometimes I'll write them and I'm like, I can't sing that one. Like we can pitch it. So I probably will always have that balance. And like Ernest and Hardy are people that I look to a lot, like that have been able to do that.
So you mentioned TikTok a couple times. Is that something that was easy for you to embrace jumping on there, or were you reluctant to jump on the train?
I was definitely reluctant. My roommate and his girlfriend both were posting TikToks, and they had pretty big followings on there, and they were just kind of sitting by listening to me write these songs, and they were like, you got to start posting them. Like it might be kind of scary or whatever, but like you got to start posting and singing on TikTok. And I was like, okay. And then um, I guess that was the summer of 2021. So I had been in Nashville for a little bit. And then like 2021, like June, July, I started posting TikToks, and I had a cover. I did Good Lord Lori, and that was the first one that kind of got, it got like 30,000 views or whatever. And I remember being so excited about 30,000 views. And then after Good Lord Lori, I started posting like my original stuff, and I did Everybody Loves Her, which is the first song I have out. And then that one got like 100,000 something. And I was like, oh my God, like people want my original song. Like, what do I do? Like, how do I get this out? And yeah, so like I think it was kind of, I was reluctant for sure, and it was kind of scary. But then like as soon as people reacted kind of the way they did, I was like so surprised and like excited. So like I love that side of TikTok. It's not always fun to make stuff all the time, but like it never gets old when you write something and people are excited about it. Like that's something I don't think I'll ever get used to or wrap my head around, or like kind of when people are commenting like, "Oh, I've listened to this TikTok, like I have it saved, like I've listened to it 50 times, like please release this song." Like that's something I probably never get my head around, because I just whenever I started writing, like I just never pictured people listening to them, or like I never had that on my mind. So like that's always something I'll never get tired of, for sure.
At the end of the day, that connection is what it's all about.
Right. Yeah, that
Yeah.
that you can't beat that. It's not always fun to, especially when you've got a song kind of coming out and you're trying to roll stuff out. It's not always fun. You've heard the song like 1,000 times by that point, but at the end of the day, it's like that connection, like you said, is that never gets old.
So what would you say have been some of the bigger lessons you've learned since you moved to Nashville?
Yeah, I think just kind of believing in what you're doing, and like I think the biggest lesson I've learned is that like if it's on your heart and you want to do it, um, that's kind of the plan for you. I heard that at Lipscomb. It was like one of the things that kind of like changed my perspective. That was the most important, single-handedly the most important thing I learned from music school before I left. It was like if it's on your heart and like you see yourself doing it, like that's kind of the plan for you. Like you should follow that. And ever since I've followed kind of what sounded crazy, like it's all kind of fell into place. And like, yeah, I would say that's the biggest lesson I've learned. And like if anyone has something that they want to go do, like, and if it's really on your heart, like no matter how crazy it sounds, like you can do it if you just follow that. So that's kind of the biggest takeaway that I've had, and it really did kind of change my life and perspective on things in the last 2 years, because I've always worked hard at whatever I was doing. I just have that personality. But like when you find something you love, and like you find something that you always kind of wanted to do, like I was saying, it just it sounded so crazy and seemed so crazy. I think like when you do start following that path, like things will kind of lay out the way they're supposed to, which is which is cool.
Do you feel like being surrounded by so many other people also chasing the impossible makes things more seem more attainable?
Yeah, I think so. I think I have a lot of like-minded friends. I don't have I'm just kind of starting to meet the people that are, my age, writing country songs, like with the publishing meetings and stuff that I've done lately. But like my friends here, they all make music. It's not like exactly the kind of same music, which is also cool. But like, yeah, I do have people that I personally know that are really successful. Like, they're doing big stuff, and like people listen to their music and they buy tickets, and they're, on major labels or whatever. So like, yeah, I do think it's cool being around it. And like it seems like when you're friends and like you kind of interact with these people, like it definitely does seem more attainable, for sure. And like I think everyone's been so like welcoming here too. Like as soon as I started meeting like the publishers and stuff, like everyone wants each other to succeed here. It's very collaborative. It's not like you're trying to beat each other. Like if you're a great writer, a great artist or whatever, like another great writer or great artist like kind of wants to either like get in the room and write a great song, or like feature and make a great record or something like that. That's kind of been the experience. So yeah, I would say for sure, like seeing people do stuff at a big level that like are just like my friends, it definitely makes it seem more realistic, for sure.
So how would you describe your musical style for people out there who maybe haven't heard you before?
I would say I try to take the best things that I love about country music and kind of just like put them together with my own voice. So like I try to say things in a way that's personal to me, and like I always try to go back to that thing where it's like, how would I write it if no one ever heard it? Like if this song was just for me, like how would I want to say it? And then mixing it with all the stuff I love about country music. And I would say that's kind of the biggest thing. Like John Mayer and country music were always my biggest two influences. So like I never set out to make music that way, but that's kind of how people have been identifying it. And so I think that makes a ton of sense for what I'm doing in my sound. I would say it's like John Mayer if he was a country artist.
So if you had to point someone who's never heard you before to one or two of your songs that would best describe you, which would you pick?
I think A Little Too Good, that last one we put out, it feels like the best kind of description. And then Me in Tennessee is also like a direction that I want to keep moving into, you know. And I would say the breakdown's a little bit of an outlier to the rest of my music, but like I think it shows kind of there's a lot of music to come, and like it's not always the same vibe, and but it still feels like it fits together. So I would say that A Little Too Good, Me and Tennessee, and The Breakdown are pretty good descriptions of what we're trying to do. Also, Everybody Loves Her, the first one I put out, is it fits into there too. So yeah, don't have too many.
Almost.
Yeah, I don't have too many songs out right now, but those I do feel like that's kind of the direction we're moving. Made For was a fun song that we put out, and there was a lot of momentum behind it, and it made sense to put it out in the summer. Um, but you know, I'm not saying I won't go back to those kind of songs, and there's definitely songs that I write that sound like that. But I think the other ones, like Little Too Good and Me and Tennessee and Breakdown, are kind of more on track with what we're doing.
A Little Too Good was your latest single. Could you tell us the story behind that song and how it came together?
Yeah, that was one of the first. That was the first song I wrote when I moved here. So like kind of on topic with what we were talking about when I got here. But it was the first time I had to write something for class, or it was like the second song I had to write for a class or something. And it was like I was not used to writing on deadlines and stuff. And um, the assignment was to take two songs that were, you know, kind of different from each other, or take two different elements of two different songs and make something new with it. So I listened to Somebody's Problem was a demo at that time on Morgan Wallen's Instagram story. So I heard that and loved it. So Somebody's Problem. And then I was also listening to a song called Oh Isabel by Parker McCollum, which is also unreleased on YouTube. So I took those two songs and kind of took like the guitar part from Somebody's Problem and tried to make something like that. And then I used some of the chords from Oh Isabel. And then I had that idea A Little Too Good, Too Fast. And then it just kind of fell out. I had to sit there, and I think I wrote it in like 2 days, and it was like the first time I had to write something on a deadline. So I sat in this recliner in my living room for like I think like 4 or 5 hours or like whatever, and I stayed up really late the night before I was supposed to have it done, and it just kind of turned out the way it was. I don't really remember writing it, but I remember the situation that I was in, and yeah, I was just looking back. I was in Nashville, and I was just looking back at you know everything that had happened and how I got there, and I was thinking about how everyone at Ole Miss is still kind of doing what they were doing, and everyone that was in regular school was still doing what they were doing, even though I was by myself, and like time just kind of kept moving on. And yeah, it was definitely a reflective song, the first one I wrote when I got here. So yeah, I wrote it all in I think a couple of days.
Was this one that always sort of felt special to you?
Yeah, it was. And I remember being really excited about it when I first wrote it, and like the reaction from people was always great. They always loved it. And I think kind of it was like a personal thing, but like I think I kind of discredited it just because it was so early on. It was like I think the third or fourth or fifth song I ever wrote. So like I kind of just looked at those, and like they're a little left of center, like they have a unique thing to them. And I think I kind of looked at it as a bad thing for a while, and like kind of was like, oh, forget those like first 10 or whatever that I wrote. And then I went back and listened to them, and I was like, these are pretty good. So yeah, I was really excited about it when I first wrote it, and it felt special. And then I kind of went through a period where I was like, oh, it was too early. Like I can write a better song. And then we went back to it, and I was like, that's still pretty good. So yeah, and then when we produced it, when we got it right, the way that we got it when we released it, like the first time I heard it, it definitely was like I was like, that's it. That's what I've been trying to do. So that song had been written for like I guess 2 years or 2.5 years almost before we put it out. We put it out 3 weeks ago. So that kind of stuff is cool.
So what's next for you?
We're gonna put out a few more singles, and then we've got a project that we're gonna put out, and we're trying to decide how many songs that's gonna be. So we might be adding some songs to what the original plan was. So don't know the exact timeline, but we got a couple more singles, and then hopefully a project coming out. So that should be this year.
So I want to do a little rapid fire with you before I let you go, if that's cool with you.
Sure.
Let's do this then. Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Pancakes. If you could only eat one thing the rest of your life, what would it be?
Uh, Brisket, I think.
Ooh, good answer.
Yeah.
Dream venue to play at.
Red Rocks. Got to be Red Rocks or the Ryman. Red Rocks or the Ryman.
Those are the two most popular ones, so you're right on track.
Yeah.
Would you rather have 20 fingers or 20 toes?
20 toes.
20 toes. Why?
I feel like 20 fingers, I'd have to kind of relearn the guitar. I don't know how to
Okay.
control all that.
If you played the piano, it'd be very good to have
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Dream collaborator, dead or alive?
I think I gotta say Parker McCollum. He's just kind of been the guy for a long time.
If you could only listen to three artists the rest of your life, who would they be?
John Mayer, Morgan Wallen, and I'm gonna say Chris Stapleton just because I've been listening to him a ton recently.
You're the first one not to hesitate on that question, so good job.
I was hesitating in my mind, but I just kind of spit
It came out quick enough. Don't worry.
the most recent people that I've been listening to, but
Yeah.
hopefully that would stand up. I mean, Parker McCollum would probably have to make his way in there at some point, but yeah, that's pretty solid. I think.
That's a good list there. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could delete any word from the English language, what would it be?
Oh, geez. I was actually talking about this last night. I hate when people say stinky to describe something that smells bad. It makes me cringe every time. So if we could get rid of that forever, I didn't even like saying it just now. If we could get rid of that forever, that'd be pretty awesome.
Well, thank you so much again for taking the time for this.
Yeah. Appreciate you,
Of course.
come on here. I really appreciate it. It's super cool. This is kind of my first longer interview. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
Hey y'all, thank you guys so much again for tuning in. If you liked what you heard from Vincent, be sure to go check him out on social media and go check out all his music wherever you listen to music. And if you liked what you heard from the podcast, be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening and go check us out on social media at Worlds of Country on all platforms. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Talk to you guys next time.